For those of you, pretty much everybody here knows what happened to Mary Alice Love on May 11, 2026. What we asked for was 9 demands from the police department and the mayor. Everyone thinks, well, they met your demands. They released a video. They released some 911 tapes. Well, what we got was what looked like a video presentation out of a movie. We got the actual police chief who got up and is given a whole narrative about what happened. Let it be known, they did not turn over all the videotapes. If you look at some of those videotapes, you can see where there's breaks in them where they start switching cameras. You can see that they didn't turn over all the 911 tapes. They turned over what they thought was their best foot forward. Well, that best foot forward failed miserably. They claimed that this was an 18-year veteran sergeant who was leading this charge, which it was. He was trained in CIT, Crisis Intervention Training, which is now required for any higher level officers, which is 40 hours of training on how to deal with mental health, how to deal with domestic issues, and he failed on pretty much every level. It was a series of tactical errors from the start. What is the number one rule in CIT training? Slow things down. Do not speed them up. Do not rush into things. What was the second thing you're supposed to do? Assess the situation and listen to what's going on. What did he do? If you watch that video, the first thing they did is, let's go in the house. They come up to Jeffrey, and she says, I'm not dressed, I'm not comfortable coming outside, so they rush inside. Okay, nothing wrong with that. First thing in the living room, though, is they ask her, what happened? What's going on? And as they do that, she starts to describe to them what happened. They turn around and ignore her and the sergeant asks the other officer, give me your shield. We don't need it. We're going to give it to the guy outside. Ignoring what she's telling them what was going on. They had no idea. They were not even paying attention to what the situation was in the house. So what is the next rule? The number one rule in any domestic situation or in any family or mental health crisis is separate the family members from that individual, because you don't know whether the mental health crisis derives from some comment, some argument they had with a family member, or something else. You just don't know. So you separate the family member. There was no kidding, there was 4 officers on scene. 3 males, 1 female. 2 came into the house. They had one just standing outside the front door holding the shield, doing nothing. And they had a female officer standing next door staring through a bush, looking into the backyard to see what was going on. So what should they have done? They simply could have had her walk outside the front door and stand outside the front door. But no, what did they do? They said, take us through the house. Let's go. And what do they do? She walks up to the door because she wants to let Mary Alice, her daughter, know, hey, don't be afraid. You know, I'm here, or whatever. And the first thing, she cracks open the door just a little bit. And what does one of the officers do? Grabs her and starts throwing her to the ground. But what the police didn't show you is what is Mary Alice's view. So we see a view from the inside of the house of what they're looking at. But what was that view? If we could switch over to that photograph that shows that view from the outside. From the outside. Yes, the patio. Please, when you get to that. I'll skip over it. When you get it up, just give me somebody raise their hand and I'll come back to it. But what they're supposed to do at that point is they should, first of all, Jeffrey should have never been there. Should have never been near that door. Second, you're not to make the person more agitated. Your goal is to try and de-escalate the situation. What is going to escalate it any more than her seeing her mother, elderly mother, being tackled to the ground? What do you think that's going to do to a person who's in a crisis to begin with, who called for help? What is that going to do? What else happened? So now, when you don't have a shield, when you have a shield in your hand and somebody has a potential knife or a knife, you're protected. Without that shield, body armor doesn't protect you. Doesn't protect a knife, it protects a gun. It does. They had zero protection standing there, and they have plenty of room to move. So what did they do? They escalated the situation. They caused it to escalate, which she got up and she simply said, she said the F word, but she said, "What are you doing to my mom?" Anything any one of us would have said. That wasn't a mental health crisis.
No,
that was a
real.
normal cry.
That's it.
What are you doing? Why are you hurting
Absolutely.
my mom? And as she gets
Guarantee
up,
that would have been
what
my
you don't-
response.
slow down that video, because what the video even they gave you shows, that officer, 1 second before she even approached that door, he unholstered and he took off his safety before she ever reached that door. He had made his mind up that he was going to shoot her before she ever touched that door handle. And what happened? She touched the door handle and opened it up, and she was shot before not one command. What is the number one key when you have a de-escalation situation? You need to speak with the individual. You need to tell them what you want. Put the knife down. Stop. Sit down. Don't come forward. Do something. They gave zero opportunity.
Share out the
for her to
live.
comply
This is
with
Mundelein,
anything. And
Illinois.
what could they have done?
Peaceful
Back
protest
up.
for Mary
Back up and wait
Alice.
for the crisis intervention people to come. The family had actually called for crisis intervention, and you know what? The paramedics were sitting outside. The crisis intervention people were on the way from the Lake County Health Department. They just hadn't arrived yet, and they didn't do anything. So when he gets there, he's working on it. We're going to get down to that photo in a second. Here it is. So when you see the reflective glass, the photo to the right is looking out. That's the only one they decided to show you. When she's sitting on that, right, where are you going?
Go back. Go back to the first 20 minutes. Go back.
You all saw it. But when you're looking at they'll get it back. When she was looking from the outside, all she's seeing on that left-hand side is reflective glass. At best, all she's seeing is shadows, and she sees somebody tackling her elderly mother to the ground. What else were you going to do? That's okay. I'm done with that. Next, what are you supposed to do after de-escalating? You're supposed to get your eyes on her, right? You got somebody outside. Get your eyes on her. Surround them. Give them room so that you can take time to de-escalate the situation. What is your strongest voice that every officer is taught? What is your strongest voice? Your voice. That's your strongest weapon. It's your strongest tool, because that's what can de-escalate a situation. What happened? This officer, this 18-year veteran who supposedly had all this crisis intervention, she never threatened anybody. She never pointed a knife at anybody. She simply asked, "Why are you hurting my mom?" But what did he do? He cowardly stood behind the couch. There was a couch between him and her, between him and the several feet before the glass, and shot her through the door. She never even entered the house. That is not what you are supposed to do. That is not what he was trained to do in that CIAT training. That was not the appropriate action to take. So now, what does the village do to this poor family? To throw salt on the wound, they try and make a portrayal and try to blame, it seems like to blame the mom, saying, "Why did you call the police to begin with?" Blame the victim. Why did she come at the police with knives? She never threatened anybody. Why were they even there if they were not going to help? That is what was the call was for, help. No help was given. So at this point, I'm going to have the next speakers come forward to talk about what happened, to talk about their feelings, to talk about what our next steps are. We have made 9 demands. We've listed that out to everybody. This man should be fired. There is no question he should be fired. People talk about the union rules and all those things. Deal with it. Deal with it. We've dealt with other communities where we've demanded immediate firing, and that has happened. And they dealt with the consequences. They dealt with it. Because if this is your leader, if this is your sergeant training these other officers, get that poison out of the department. He's only going to teach them bad things. So for this thing,